Hello again, people. Welcome to Paxton Road TV, PRTvSpurs. We've got a number of names, but it's the same content, same channel, same people. I am Sam Spurs for life, and we are doing Talking Points number 105. Spurs this week, the good, the bad, and it's Arsenal. Yeah, you know what I mean. They're ugly. So we got to go and do some sort of talks about them lot in the house. Joining me today, we have, that's what I like to see, Darius 3K, Sean Hurl, welcome to the stream. We are going to try and get this condensed in about 15 minutes. But yeah, it's that week. We've had a lot of goings on since last week. Fan forums, debates, Postecoglou, Son, Mr. Levy. We've had a new starter, Scott Munn, PRTv doing stuff in the background. So it has been a bit of a good, bad, and like I said, the ugly being Arsenal coming. Yeah, so there's quite a few bits and pieces that I've been getting. Sorry, I'm just being interrupted in the background by stuff I'm trying to do. As you can see, it's all live and good stuff. Anyway, right then, to start off, Darius, welcome. How's the week been for you from a positive? Oh, he's gone already. See, that's how we do. So straight back on, Sean. Straight to you. How's the week been for you from a good perspective? What's been good for you?
The good thing has been the sort of has been every time I've seen Ange Postecoglou on my screen, whether it's my phone or on the TV. The fact that we've got a week off prior to an important game, and yeah, they're probably the good things for me this week anyway.
Darius, what about yourself? How's the week been? Bearing in mind we had a good victory last week. We were obviously playing in the midweek, so I'm hoping, not seeing any press conferences as yet. I don't think it's out as yet, unless it was yesterday. So yeah, what's been good for you this week? Once you saw the screen.
What's been good in terms of Tottenham? There's not really been much, to be fair. It's kind of been a week of watching the opposition, to be honest with you. I mean, Champions League, Europa League's happened. A few shots, few surprises, few expectations that were met. I think it's been pretty much a Tottenham-less week in terms of, for me personally, I haven't really watched the forum. I haven't watched any of the forum yet. So I've sort of just been watching the opposition across the road, should I say, and, enjoying the Champions League being back. So in terms of Tottenham, I think it's been quite, problemless going into this week. I think there's not been anything to talk about, which is, in my opinion, a good sign. So yeah, apart from, the scout, is it Leonardo Gabbanini? He obviously was sacked by Scott Munn. He was a very, very important person in the transfer window to help Ange Postecoglou while we didn't have a DOF. So it's probably the biggest news of the week, I'd say. But no, it's been pretty calm, pretty troubleless week, I'd say, if you want to use that word.
You guys talking about that, and again, just letting the viewers know, if there is a slight lag on the stream, sorry about that. Apologies, that will be sorted out in the future. It's just due to the numbers of devices connected to this Sky internet. Yeah, I didn't really get to look into that much. Been busy, other stuff, my life in general. I know that Scott Munn is now officially started, but there has been some things I've seen on Twitter briefly saying about how, as you mentioned, the name that's been mentioned has been sacked, and maybe some more changes to occur. How do you think, if any, has this had any effect? Sean, has this had any effect on the team? Morale, anything? Or is it just really not bothered? The players not bothered? It's just a case of behind the scenes getting stuff sorted out and heading in the right direction?
I'm yet to see whether there will be an effect on the players. I know that Gabbiadini is credited with bringing in the data that we've been doing our recruitment on, which seems a shame that, Scott Munn turns out and the first job he's doing is sacking the guy that supposedly improved our recruitment. Obviously, he's a hire from PRTv, so I think, time will tell. I mean, that to me is like kind of, if we're talking good, bad, ugly, I would tend to think it's sort of in the ugly stage, that he's just been fired when I think he's probably done quite a competent job when Scott Munn couldn't officially work for us. in terms, I suppose the other ugly thing as well, the thing we haven't mentioned, is the injury to even
Of
Perisic.
course, yes, completely forgot about
That's
that.
bad news. That is very bad, ugly news, to be fair.
Mm.
That's bad and ugly, you know. So we could potentially lose a guy who seems to have got a position as an impact sub for the rest of the season, and maybe never see him in a Spurs shirt again. So that's not good news.
Mm. Agreed.
Yeah, touching on a couple of things, obviously you mentioned there. It seems a bit strange. Obviously, we're unofficially, PRTv, or officially, unofficially, whichever way you want to look at it, isn't supposedly working for us. But we know that there's been a lot of stuff in the background that he has been doing. I have no idea whether he's still going to be involved with this, whether he's still involved in it, whether he's going to be a silent
I think it's officially
type
over
person.
now. I think it's officially over now.
It was supposed to be officially over some time ago, but again, we heard different things. So I don't know. My personal opinion is I think he'll be some sort of consultant in the background. I just don't think we'll have any official word of it. I think there's a lot that was positive about PRTv. There's some stuff that I think it could have been better. I think his outgoings could have definitely been better. That process has started, and it had started since he's been in the job. And to be fair to Postecoglou, what he did say was not everything is going to get done in terms of him in one window. So he expects it to be over several windows. So now it's the next step. The next window be coming in January. What I just heard, again, I don't know how true it is, and I'm seeing it from some of my Army colleagues, is that potentially Ivan Toney maybe have agreed a fee with Arsenal, or sorry, Brentford may have agreed a fee with Arsenal for Ivan Toney to go to them in January, or possibly next season. What do you think of that? Because Ivan Toney's a player that I would have liked to have seen potentially go for in January, because I think he may be slightly disillusioned at Brentford, possibly, I don't know. But I think he's a good player, and I think he'd match up with the system well. He's got everything about being a target man, number 9. He can also play football, as we've seen with Brentford, how they play. What's your thoughts on the news on that? Moment, I don't know if it's true, but just say it.
I don't know. I think face value, you'd think it'd be bad. He scores a lot of goals. He does score a lot of goals. He gets double-figure goals most seasons he's been in the Prem. I think the only issue is him going to Arsenal. I think that's a good move for them, personally. But is he going to displace Gabby Jesus? They still have Nketiah. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me for Arsenal's sake. So we'll have to see. I think there's plenty of strikers out there. I don't actually think he fits the role of an Ange Postecoglou striker perfectly anyway. I think he's just a really good player. I think you probably find players that fit that role better. I don't think his engine is... he presses. He does press. But I don't think he presses as intensely as we'd want. But again, he's a great player. So if he's there, and apparently the fee's only around 50-60 million pounds that they want. So if it's there, you go for it. But it's not something that I'm going to be, punch in the air that we've missed out on this opportunity. I think there's a lot, and it seems like there's a lot of strikers in that mold who are evolving and becoming, we've got one in our ranks already in Jamie Donnelly. I'm not going to say he's anywhere near the level of Ivan Toney, but again, if you're going to promote youth and you're going to give people a chance, that might stunt his progression and his growth. So I think we're fine for not securing Ivan Toney as a striker. I think there's much more important positions as well we need to secure than a striker, in my opinion, anyway. I think centre-back is still the most important position. And then I'd rather have a left-back backup than a striker backup. I think we've got enough attacking players to actually last the season. Whereas if Udoji or one of our centre-backs drop, we are in trouble. Especially now with the loss of Perisic as well.
Yeah, sure. Any other different opinions on that? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, there's no doubt Tony's a very talented player, and he will strengthen Arsenal's squad. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's not least for penalties. He's lethal. He's Kane-like in his penalty taking. I mean, I'm sure. He already signalled his intention of the two teams he mentioned were Arsenal and Liverpool. So I think it was very long shot if he was going to come to Spurs. Obviously we're going to get linked with him because we have a 30-goal striker missing from our squad from last season. I have confidence in the recruitment procedure, and I think there's a lot to be said for wanting players who want to come to your team, and I think that's a central core element to the players that we've acquired. Maddison wanted to come to Tottenham. Brennan Johnson wanted to come to Tottenham. And that's and that's in spite of having no Europe, in spite of having no Champions League, so this whole idea that you need to be, a Champions League team to attract really good talent is not necessarily borne out by this thing. I'm not, like Darius, I'm sure there are other players out there as well.
And why would he not go to Chelsea? Chelsea seems like it would make so much more sense for his career and for what they need as well. Arsenal have two pretty decent strikers. Chelsea needs somebody to score goals. They've scored 5 goals in 5 games. They need it more than they do Arsenal. So
I have different thoughts about it. There's pros and cons for Ivan Toney. One, he's 28. It looks like we're going down a bit more of a younger route in terms of strikers. But 2, if you're going to bring someone in January, I want someone who's proven. I don't want to bring someone who we need to try and get to the point of wasting half a season on to get to July, whatever, then get ready for next season. So if you're going to bring someone in, it needs to be a player that's going to have impact, potentially who's played in the Premier League before. He fits all those bills, in my opinion. He's got the experience. I personally think he'd fit the system brilliantly. I've seen him play at Brentford, and the reason I say that is tactically, what's his name? Thomas Frank is a very tactical manager. He has different ways of playing depending on who the opposition is. So I've seen him play 3 up top, I've seen him play 2. I've seen him play in both those formations. I've seen him play as a lone striker. I also think that he does press. I know that he's got a lot of ability on the ball. I know that he scores goals. All the fundamentals that you'd want from a striker, I believe he has. But I'm not quite sure whether or not, as you've mentioned already, Sean, if it's a case of he wants to come to us. But then again, would a number of players have come to us if Ange Postecoglou wasn't there? I don't know if potentially players like James Maddison would have come to us if Conte was still there, regardless if it was Tottenham Hotspur. I don't know. So
Brennan's definitely not coming if Ange Postecoglou is not there.
There you go. So it's a combination of Spurs, but a combination of who's actually managing the team, because I wouldn't come to Spurs. You mentioned also about the Chelsea thing. I wouldn't go Chelsea either. It's a basket case there at the moment. You could go there, you get paid in 8 years. Brilliant, fantastic.
He's guaranteed to start at Chelsea. They need a striker. Like he is guaranteed to start at Chelsea, I think.
I agree with you. I agree he's guaranteed to start, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to enjoy what he does down there, because I've seen some stuff going on at Chelsea. We don't know everything that's going on behind closed door. I don't want to spend too long on Chelsea, but I think they're going to struggle this season. And I just think they've got way too many players, and to add somebody else into that mix who's going to be there, I just don't know how it works. They need to do a lot more culling, in my opinion. But yeah, just touching on players and getting back to the PRTv thing. Is he going to be is he behind closed doors still working, do you reckon, at the moment? Or is that it now? Because I still think he's got a little bit of work to do. I think there's 1 or 2 players that I think he needs to make sure he assists to get them out, and maybe not leave that just to, I'm just gone. But I don't know. What's you thinking on that one? Because like I said, there's a lot of work still to do on the outgoings and still incomings, but there's probably going to be over several more windows.
Does PRTv have to do the outgoings? I don't think he has to. I think Scott Munn and his director of football could do that. That's their job now. I mean, I do feel that Levy. It's funny. Levy has these kinds of, he has these pet projects. I think PRTv is a pet project. That's why he's kept him on as a retainer to work as a sort of, a consultant basis. It's the same. He really was desperate to get Mourinho when he was available and when he decided to get rid of Pochettino. The fact that he got him and then followed it up with Nuno and Conte, and all 3 of them ended up being a mistake for our club is another matter. And that's something that he kind of admitted to in the fans forum this week, which to me was a bit of a damp squib. It was he was, again, he's been so lucky.
Talk about that fan forum, because I didn't see any of it, and I've seen a couple of sound bites. I've seen sound bites and I've seen a couple of bits and pieces, but I haven't really seen the hour and a bit that's on the Tottenham website on YouTube. So, Sean, if you want to, I guess summarise what your thoughts are. Was it positive in terms of them doing it? Because I heard the interviewer say it's been 6 years since we did this last time. 6 years since they did that sort of thing. That can't be right, surely.
No, that's correct. It's 6 years ago. I think it was Christmas, and it was, Pochettino was there, and it was that period. Obviously, a new stadium has been built. so they could point to all the infrastructure stuff, that didn't exist. But yeah, I mean, there was very few taxing questions. Levy, he kind of, I mean, he was able to come out kind of quite unscathed, to be fair. The only time he was put under a little bit of pressure was on match price ticketing on a couple of questions, which he kind of batted away, sort of just front foot and just killed the ball dead into the square. And other than that, it was kind of like a more of a celebration. He's very lucky. He's very lucky. He's appointed a very popular coach. We've had an unbeaten start to the season. We're playing good football. He was able to ride on the wave of that and really get away quite unscathed. And obviously, I would imagine that there were certain people who were excluded from being invited to the forum. So I mean, it was a hand-picked audience, I got the impression it was a massive PR job, basically. And probably you got more out of his Bloomberg interview if you go to see that. He's done an interview with Bloomberg about the ownership of the club. But yeah, no, it's I'd love to have had that had that this time last year, or at the end of the season, what we just had, when it was much more, it would have been much more toxic, I would have thought, So
I was going to ask that question. Do you think that the only reason this fan forum's gone on is because we are 5 games unbeaten? We have a very likable manager, and I like I said, I think you're spot on. That's the reason why we've held it now. Also, it made me cringe a lot when he said we have our Tottenham back. I did not like that at all. I don't know what other people think about that, but
oh no!
What did you say? I didn't hear that.
Daniel Levy was asked a question about sort of the progress and the current status of the club, and he said Daniel Levy said, and I quote, "We've got our Tottenham back." And I don't know. It's been 5 games. It still could all unravel in the next 3 months, and that could look like a very, very silly statement. So I just think, okay, cool, we're 5 games up, the vibes are high, the mood is great within the club, but things can go south very, very quickly.
I guess the question I would ask, Danny, is what does your Tottenham being back look like? What's your actual thought process behind what you think Tottenham should look like? Because he said that in I think it was last year, the year before, in terms of what he said as a DNA about Spurs, and then we ended up with Nuno as manager.
Exactly.
It didn't make any sense to me. So I'm not sure whether or not that is necessarily, when he says we've got our Tottenham back, whether he's saying that because we're winning, we're playing good football and we're winning football. Had we played good football and not been winning, would he have said the same thing? As Sean has mentioned, I think some of the questions from what I saw, just in the sound bites, looked very contrived. It looked very much like I'm going to know what I'm going to be asked. I can answer this comfortably.
Well, yeah, people were asked to submit their questions in advance. There was a small Q&A at the end of the sort of towards the end, but which were obviously questions that came from it. But again, there were really soft questions. There was a nice piece with the boy with Down syndrome. I think a lot of people have seen that, where Ange intervened to get the boy to ask him quite a nice question. And that was good. I mean, that's good PR, and that's to be welcome. But yeah, I mean, Levy did go into some depth about he used the old DNA phrase. He used academy, young players, and that he's got a coach who. This is quite a key one. He said, "Who knows what resources we have and what resources we don't have," which I thought was very key.
Watch this. I need to watch this thing.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, you have to commit yourself to the 90
hour and a half
on YouTube.
It's about an hour and a half, isn't it? Yeah, it's an hour and a half.
But yeah, it was a bit softball and good PR.
Oh man.
So, but it's interesting to see Levy obviously relaxed. He's in a totally different place than he would have been in April, say, and he's
fallen on his feet. He's got pretty much, with Ange Postecoglou, he's got pretty much the archetype type manager that he needs. He's good in front of the media. He's not going to put the club down. He's very positive around the players. He's very much a progressive manager in terms of the style of play that he wants. He's got a clear understanding of what he wants. And he don't look like he's going to... He's a very strong man, don't get me wrong. But he's not going to just, well, throw my toys out. No, it's not me. It's all of them. He's going to take responsibility. That can't be... That's perfect for Daniel Levy.
He's so lucky.
Perfect.
He's so lucky.
Again, that was another quote of Levy, which was quite pertinent, where he said what he liked about Ange was that he tells me something to my face and he doesn't go and say another story elsewhere without mentioning who he was referring to, but everyone in the audience knew immediately who he's talking about. But it was so,
no idea.
You know, there are. I mean, there are little nuggets of things like that. But I would, you know, it was a lovely PR exercise, and that's what it is. And you know, he doesn't. I mean, it's probably the most relaxed he's been in a while. He was kind, you know. I mean, there are other things I liked about the fan forum. Actually, I liked Bethany England, who was there representing the Spurs women. She spoke very eloquently. And the Spurs women's manager, the new manager, Robert Vilburn, was there, and he was talking about the plan for the season ahead. So it was, you know, there were good things as well, but you know, they were, you know, it was kind of wheat amongst the chaff. You know what I mean? it was hard to find the needle in the haystack. You know, but anyway, yeah. Definitely go and watch it, and you can make up your own mind. But I'll never trust the word that comes out of Daniel Levy's mouth. And but you know, I love my coach, and you know, as I keep putting elsewhere, hashtag I back the team, not the regime. You know, and that's it.
I've never seen Daniel Levy been put into a situation. All the interviews I've seen, it looks like it's very much, if not scripted, at least very comfortable for him. There's never an option for him to get the questions like, well, why did you hire Jose Mourinho? And then why did you hire Conte? Why did you not back these managers if you brought in winning managers? You know, these are the sort of questions and answers I want to get questions to.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sam, but that's another point of, that's the sort of part of the forum that I saw. He sort of mentioned that he hired win now managers, but that wasn't the right strategy. To me, that's a slap in the face to those managers, because you can't hire win now managers and then give them the likes of Joe Rodon and 100%. Those sort of players, and Gedson Fernandez and them sort of players. Like he told Jose Mourinho, here you go, have Gedson Fernandez and work with it. And where's that guy now? So I'm sorry, like, you can say all this about we hired win now managers and it didn't work out, but you are very much part of the reason why that did not work out. And to sort of brush that away and kind of put all of the blame, and almost like it was almost like a little bit of a sneak diss. Everybody knew that he was not being complimentary about the previous managers that we had in charge. I think that is what to say. And I think that's a little bit of a slap in the face, because I think those managers could have done a lot better had he not restricted them with, you know, the purchases in the market. So some of the things I was like, yeah, this is typical Daniel Levy. And like you said, Sean, I think if I do watch the whole hour and a half forum, I think I will find things that I'll be like, yeah, that makes me happy, and that excites me.
Yeah, so, I mean, to be fair, I mean, by Levy standards, he did admit he'd made a mistake with hiring those managers, which is probably a big admission, because he strikes me as one of those persons who wouldn't want to accept that he made a mistake. You know what I mean? I can imagine. You've all worked with people like that who will point to other people and say it was their fault. You know, but it was the closest I've ever seen him come to making a mistake. Doesn't make me trust him anymore, as I say. But you know, I mean,
did he own up to his mistakes, or is he saying that hiring those managers was a mistake? Because I don't think that hiring Jose and Conte was a mistake. Had you gone about, you know, everything you need.
He says they didn't fit the team, and I think, to be fair, I think he's right.
Yeah, but you knew that. I could have told you that before Jose started. I could have told you that before Conte started. They don't fit what if we've got a DNA. They don't fit that. The other thing is, I think the bigger problem for me is I think Daniel Levy didn't want to commit to these guys, because I think he didn't want to go down a route of buying 20, 30-year-old players, 29, 30, you know, players that would fit what they want to do, because he was buying players like, as you said, young players. We could go through, what's his name, the Dutch guy, I've forgotten his name, who was with us, Steven Bergwijn. Players like this were brought into the club, and both it was like, well, what you give me him for? I don't really want him. I want these players, and these players may have been, and then talking about Jose and Conte here, these players may have been the 32-year-old players, you know, the Dybala, all these type of players that Jose may have said, I want this player. But we know how Jose operates. He's never stayed anywhere longer than, what, 4 or 5 years.
Well, in his third year, he's doing terrible at Roma at the moment. It always seems like in the third year of his tenures, it just seems to fall apart.
3 years is usually Jose. Conte's pretty much the same. Yes, they might get that success, but when they leave, some would argue that Conte left Juventus in a good state and all the rest of that sort of stuff when he was there, and Inter Milan in a good state when he left. But they won. So if you've won, you're always going to be in a good state. You just need to recycle. If you leave somewhere and you haven't won, and you've got this player that doesn't really fit any sort of mold, you've got to have that philosophy. And that philosophy, I think they were caught up in between, let's get young players for the future, but we want to win now. I don't think you can do that unless you give the manager time and give him the resources.
And those young players are world class. If those young players are elite players, then cool. But if you're bringing in a young player that needs to adapt, especially from a different country, it ain't going to work out. It was never going to work out. And in hindsight, you can say that. Yeah,
and them two managers, to be the greatest will in the world, they ain't really looking to, I'm going to see this out as a project for 5 years. They've never done it. I don't recall them doing projects where they're going to say, I'm going to be here for this thing, because they are so competitive. They want to win now, so they want everything they need to win now. But that's just my thoughts on I think where the admission of the mistakes has come from. But I don't necessarily think they were bad managers. Just as you said, don't think they fitted what we was planned, or maybe what the ENIC had planned for them. So again, it's kind of,
it seems like they just thought you hire Jose and Conte and a trophy just comes with it. It's like you don't need to do everything else that comes with hiring that manager. You just hire him and the trophy is going to appear in our cabinet. That's not how it works, unfortunately. There's a lot more that comes to it. Yeah,
to be fair though, I think we could have won a trophy. We did some silly things. Maybe sacking Jose before the final maybe didn't help. I'm not sure that really helped us. But yeah, there's things that could have been better. Right, let's go on to the bad side of things. Yeah, talked about an injury, Sean. Perisic, I think that's as you mentioned, I think that's gonna be a significant injury, particularly if we can't get someone like Sessegnon. Now, I'm not saying, again, people, no. I am not saying that Sessegnon is the answer to Perisic. But what I am saying is, I think he's probably going to be a better player in terms of a left-sided attacking player than he would be in this hybrid role where Doji's playing as a left-back that can kind of fill in. He don't strike me as that type of player. I'd put him on the wing. And he's a young player, 23, as we mentioned. He could still be coached if his mental side's there. But in the interim, what are we going to do, Sean, without Perisic? Because, yeah, we've got Brennan Johnson. Yeah, we potentially could have Richarlison on the bench, depending on how you rotate things. But I don't know about being on that left side.
It's funny. I think the left side is something that is left-sided forward is not something that we're really short of people. If you consider that Sonny can play there, Brennan Johnson could play there. We could shift Richarlison out there. We have got cover for that particular position. It's just disappointing that, on the back of his last performance, he comes on, and without Perisic, we don't score those 2 goals. He took the corner, which Richarlison scored the header from, and he was important in that. When Udogi won the ball, he was involved in the 1-2s that got the ball to Richarlison to pass to Kulusevski. And that, you can't buy that experience. You can't buy that nous, that ability to be calm under pressure, which Perisic has. One person who may benefit from this, and this is a left field suggestion, Brian Hill. Brian Hill, yeah, that is his position. He plays with chalk on his boots. That's where he rose to fame in Spain. He could well be an answer on that left-hand side.
How far is he away?
He's a few weeks away, I believe, but he's not that far away.
Not far.
Yeah, not far. So, I mean, he could be an option too. So, I'm disappointed just because you can't buy that experience and that calmness and that thing that you get with Perisic. And he seemed to be bought into the project as well, because all the talk was that he was going to go to Hajduk Split in the summer, but obviously something changed over the course of the close season. So, that's a bad thing. I should have mentioned this at the top of the program. One of the good things was the form of our academy.
Yeah,
the under-17s.
Our academy are tearing things up at under 18, at under 21s. They've just taken on a Colchester United first team and hammered them 5-0 at their ground in the
that was the
EFL
first
Trophy.
team.
It's a Colchester United first team. Beat them 5-0. Big Alejo Velez made his first appearance at Spurs. From all accounts, he looks like he goes straight into our team. He's that much of a unit. It's incredible.
Okay, so what have you mentioning that? Going back to what my point was about the Ivan Toney thing, I think potentially this. I can't say his name. You're good with the accent.
Alejo Velez.
Alejo Velez, right? Okay,
Yeah.
Alejo. I'm gonna call it Alejo.
Yeah.
That's my Spanish bit. 19 is he? 20, 19, 20?
Yeah. He scored goals in the Argentinian First Division.
He's got the Mexico side. That's all I need. He got the Mexico side. So
cool. I'm thinking then that Postecoglou looks like the sort of person, sort of manager, and by all accounts from what he said, he will trust these youngsters. If he's and I would imagine a number of these youngsters playing in the academy do first team training. They probably handpick 4 or 5. You go and train with the first team, and it may be that some of them are training regularly with the first team. I think that's what's happening. People like Phillips are doing that. Alejo probably is doing that. So he's training with the first team, but also playing on that sort of level. And he will play them. You know, this thing about Perisic being injured now, you guys have said, yeah, we've got Gill coming back. Potentially we could put Brennan Johnson on that side. We could put Son. We could shuffle things around. I don't think the manager's scared of doing that. He's not going to say, oh, well, that's it now. Oh, I can't do anything because I've only got X. He's going to just put somebody else in. And that's what I think. My only little concern was about the Dyer and Lloris situation. Lloris didn't make the matchday squad last week, but Dyer did.
As he shouldn't.
Sorry?
As he
but
shouldn't.
what do you think about Dyer making it then, as opposed to Ashley Phillips?
They'll rotate. That's what happens. You're not going to... I personally wouldn't put 2 centre-backs in my 7 subs. So
agreed.
I think it's just a rotation thing. Like, I don't have a problem with Dyer being in there because, again, experience is a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, 18-year-old Phillips, as much as I do think he has to be good enough to be able to, to be able to sell Sanchez, Phillips has to have something about him. But I'm not bothered that Dyer... It's the same thing. I mean, Man United have got Johnny Evans and Maguire off the bench. You're not going to have 4 perfect centre-backs. I think Dyer isn't my favourite centre-back. I want Dyer gone in January, but to have him on the bench, he ain't going to play, in my opinion, unless Romero or Van der Ven get injured. If he's on the bench, it is what it is. That happens. I don't think many teams, bar, your Chelsea's, your Man City's. Man City play 4 centre-backs on the pitch at one time, potentially. So, like, I don't think it's, apart from those 2 teams, you've not really got... I mean, look at Liverpool. They were playing Jarrell Quansah. I've never heard of that guy in my life before. Young centre-back in their academy. Not many of the big teams have 4 good centre-backs. Even Arsenal were rocking Rob Holding until this season now. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that he's still here. But again, I'm not going to be like, well, if Dyer's here, we're finished. It's not that deep. It's really not that deep, in my opinion.
Sean, do you not think that... And I'm just going to give my little piece because I don't... I agree that Dyer's got the experience, but he's got so much baggage attached. And what I mean by that is we know that he's always the one, not always the one, but he's susceptible to making individual errors. If a young player does that, provided they've got the mental capacity and the manager gives the sort of like the assurances that it doesn't matter, and Ange does that, he says, yeah, I'll tell him how to do it, I'll take responsibility. I'd rather the young player make that mistake, 18, 19, regardless, than see Dyer do it again. Because you're not going anywhere with that. At least with the youngster, if you look after them right, you can play young players. We're seeing the Evan Fergusons, we're seeing the Jude Bellinghams, we're seeing, and that's outside the Premier, but we're seeing a number of young players in the Premier League that are just being given their chance. If you look at Man United, they're doing that. If you look at Brighton, if you look at Nottingham Forest, there's so many teams that are saying, you know what, we're going to play our youngsters. We trust them. Even if
what's
they
that?
make
What's
mistakes.
that saying? What's that saying, Dad? Was it you're not too young? If you're good enough, you're not too young, or?
But you've got to have the experience. Like,
if you're good enough, you're old enough.
If you're good enough, you're old enough. That's the one.
You'll never know. With you can play behind the closed doors games. You can play under 21, you can play academy, you can play even like reserve team games and stuff. But there's nothing like seeing what your mental approach is, not your tactical stuff, because all these guys in the academy who've been there since 10 can play football. Don't get me wrong, I've seen it, I know it.
Yeah.
But it's the next step up. Can you do this on the pitch? Can you be mentally switched on to play your game regardless? To come through, and the pressure that's the biggest thing in football for me, to be able to play under pressure. And I'm not quite sure if I want to see Dyer, because I don't think he can. And I'd rather a youngster get that opportunity to do that. I just my thoughts.
Well, it's the same thing. Like it's difficult because for me, like you said, Sean, I didn't even know that was the Colchester first team. That makes it even more impressive. You know, physicality of that team like that, for those boys to do that. I'm looking at the team now that played Colchester. I'm not, and this is me not saying that these players are good enough to get into the starting 11. But you start looking in a year or two's time, Iago Santiago, Jamie Donnelly, Roland Lancashire, Jude Sunset-Bell, Ashley Phillips,
Good player, by the way. That's Sunset-Bell.
Sunset-Bell looks like a quality player. Jamie Donnelly, oh my Lord. It's like we literally just molded a new Harry Kane, and he's in the academy waiting to be in that team. He played number 10, basically. He looked like he played number 10 against Colchester. Iago Santiago, I think, is a great player. And then our two centre-backs in Dorrington and Phillips. I mean, there's a lot of promise, like you said. There's a lot of promise in this academy. It makes me very excited. And also, it's more exciting. I'm more excited in the academy now because, like we mentioned with these win-now managers, there was no chance in hell any of these players would get a look, say, in the team. Absolutely no chance in hell. Even Bissouma would not get a chance in the team under Conte. So
the worst thing, though, Gareth, even beyond that, was Conte was using them as cones.
Yeah,
and it impacted.
He
was last year. He was using them as cones, and it impacted their performance. They were nearly relegated. I think it was only a change in the rules that made them stay up in the end for the Premier. And now they're running away. They've beaten Man City 5-0. They're under 21s at their place. This is. I mean, they're obviously talented players, but you knew they were never getting in the team.
Never
until this coach turned up.
But and you see the likes of
I want to pose a question to you.
Go on.
Our next game. We know what the next game is. Would you want Phillips to be on the bench, come on, make a mistake away from home, and destroy that boy's confidence?
That's what I said about the mental side of things. So let me answer this first.
Go on,
I would rather him in the squad and him make the mistake if because they would know his background. They would have seen this guy. They would know his ability. They would have known that he's been playing first team football when he was previously at his previous club, so they would know his capacity to be able to deal with that side of things. I would rather him come on with 15 minutes to go, make a mistake, and then say, yep, fine, we own it, we take it, no problem, it happens. Then Dyer come on, make a mistake, and us all going, fuck you, Dyer. We knew this was going to come on. Blah, blah, blah. And that just brings everything down, because what it does for me is that back line, particularly with the keeper, Vicaria's done very well. I would look at him and think, oh, God, Dyer's coming. Because you would see him in training every day and you think, oh, Dyer's. I'm not saying this is what they do, but this is how I would think. If I know a player is susceptible to... Now, don't get me wrong, he could have a brilliant game. He really could. Rob Holding used to do that all the time. But you knew long-term, it's not going to work out for him. So I would rather, no, fuck that, rip that up. I'm going with this guy. He might not come on, but if he does, I trust you. I'm going to give you that trust, mate. If you make a mistake, no problem. It happens. It happens in the biggest games. It happens in the smallest games. But this is what I'm going to do for you.
The reason I pose that, I respect your opinion, Sam. I'm 99.9% with you. However, it's this game.
That's right. Thank you, Sean.
If you need experience, which we've just lost with Perisic, you need someone who's been through it. And Dyer has been through it, and he gets it. And I think this would be, I'll cast your own words back at you, Sam. Leicester City away last season. Pedro Porro's debut. Away from home, you said, I would never have done that. I would have never done that. What's the difference between Pedro Porro and Phillips? Pedro Porro was a Spanish international.
6 years.
Are we talking about
and he got destroyed. Yeah, but he got destroyed, didn't he?
Two things on
destroyed.
that two things on that one. The manager in charge was different. I don't believe that Conte gave these players enough confidence to be able to make mistakes and him take responsibility. Because I saw in all of Conte's interview, it's them players. They're not good enough. He's not good enough. I need this. We've seen in 6 weeks, 3 months between time managers taking over and effectively taking these players, a whole level of confidence up. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, Porro, I would be cautious in that situation, but in this game now coming up, I don't want to see Dyer on the pitch because ultimately,
Phillips makes a mistake and we lose the game.
Yeah, but that can happen to any player.
In the age of social media, it's not a good thing. It's not a good look.
Let me tell you this, Sam. Let me tell you this, Sam. I personally think this is one of the most. This will be one of the most in sort of not competitive on the pitch. Well, it's going to be one of the most competitive on the pitch, but in terms of the fan bases as well, I think in recent times, I think a lot of our fan bases, and I am not one of these fans, but I think a lot of our fans think we can go to the Emirates and get a win.
I'm one of them fans. I think we can. Not saying we will, but I think we can.
Now,
hands up, just a quick one. Before your point. She asked before that point. So regarding that bit about, Dyer, if, let's say, Vicario gets injured, who are you going to put in goal? Lloris? Right. But would you not put Lloris in there? He's been at the club 10 years. Exactly. For what reason? The reason being?
But he wanted out.
The reason. Right. Dyer wanted out, but Dyer
didn't want out. Dyer didn't want out. We wanted Dyer gone. He didn't want out. He will stay here for as long as possible. And this is my thing. This sounds bad as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I'm not calling our fan base anything, but I personally think if Ashley Phillips made a mistake in that game on Sunday that cost us the game, he's going to get abused regardless of who he is because of the North London derby. Hear me out. If it's Dyer that has to take that abuse, and this is horrible, I don't want to say this about anybody, but somebody who's on their way out, if Dyer makes that mistake, I would rather him take that brunt. And I don't want anybody to take abuse from anybody on social media, but I think Dyer would be able to take that heat better than Ashley Phillips will. I think that could destroy us.
He's already admitted he doesn't read social media about
exactly.
himself.
So I just think if you're going to throw anybody in the fire, I would throw the guy that you basically don't want in the team already, as bad as that sounds, because actually, I'm telling you now, Sam, I am telling you now, any player, if anybody misses a penalty, if anybody gives the ball away for a goal, any player, as much as you love them, it could be James Bloody Madison, it could be Romero. Any player is going to get abused because it's a North London derby. This means so much to these fans. So much.
Hands up.
Go on, I'm finished now.
Away from home, regardless of what team we've got, away to Arsenal, our record is absolutely atrocious, regardless of what team we've got. Last time we won there, 2010. We had the likes of Gareth Bell. All them mans in there, in that team,
All in team.
It's not likely, I say it's a good chance, but it's not likely we're going to go to the Emirates and turn them over. Not likely.
Asked Spurs Twitter that same question.
But no, I said, I'm saying the same thing. We can win there based on how we're playing, but it's not likely. Arsenal will be favourites. You agree with that? Okay.
They are
100% different matter. All I'm saying to you is we are likely to have our future in Ashley Phillips. Our future is not with Dyer. So regardless of what he does, he could make the biggest error in the world. When we threw Van der Ven in, he could have had a mare of a game. He didn't. He's 22. We all know that Ashley Phillips has played first-team football. I'm not saying to start him, but what I'm saying is if you have to, the only way you're going to see if this guy's got minerals, what better way to see if you've got minerals? Now, forget about all the fan abuse to see if you've got minerals.
I guess you could say
15 minutes in a North London derby and you want to try and keep a clean sheet where possible. That's what you know if you've got minerals in a player. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see Dyer come in because I know what he's effectively got. Long term, he makes a mistake. He's not staying at this club. Long term, Ashley Phillips makes a mistake. He's going to be coached. Postecoglou, you know what? I did that. I trusted you. Players around him. That's why you need good professionals. That's why you have to have behind the door a manager that's going to support you, not the fucking Contes who's going to throw you under the bus. That's what I'm saying.
I get you, but then you look at Tanganga against Liverpool. Look at Tanganga against Liverpool.
Behind it.
He did the same thing. He had a great. He had a great performance against
100%.
Liverpool, but he doesn't. He did. I don't think he has the minerals. I think anybody can have a good game. I think it's a very, very, very risky thing to throw an 18-year-old centre back against the attack of Arsenal. You put him against Gabby Jesus, Martinelli,
Just one more quick thing,
Saka,
because I want you to come in about the North London derby, because we've only got 5 minutes and we're going to do. But right, the last thing about this: when we threw Tanganga in against Liverpool, he had a fantastic game, brilliant, but he had no first team experience. Now with age is a bit more different, but again, we all said if you're good enough, you're old enough. I believe this player's good enough, so he's old enough to be thrown into situations like Liverpool, like Arsenal. Because you gotta see what you can't keep just cotton wooling these guys. This is what the academy's for. So this is why they train with the first team. So you can see, have they got it? Are they all caught in the headlights when they're seeing these players? When they're seeing, Madison? No, Jude Bellingham talks like a champion, walks like a champion for one reason.
You cannot. He is 1 in a million. You
16
do not get
years
players
old.
like Jude Bellingham.
Birmingham City retired his shirt. He was 16. They said, not so quite sure about it, he's never going to be at Real Madrid now. I'm saying you have to take risks. Taking risks is what
there's a long way from Birmingham City to Tottenham Hotspur. There's a long way from
Birmingham
City
to Tottenham. When you're 16, it's not. In terms
if you're retiring a man at
16,
you knew he was good. You knew he was good.
I'm have to disagree. Look, anyway, it's not something I want to argue about. It's just a point, my valid point about it.
I tell you what, next week against Liverpool, your point is absolutely 100% valid. This week, it's not.
I think Liverpool, yeah.
Let's see who's in the squad.
Let's see who's
in the squad. As you said, if it's rotation, Dyer was in there last week, then he shouldn't be in there this week. Let's see. Because as I said, if you put Dyer in there, I expect him to play. I don't want to.
Come 1 o'clock, I'm not going to have a meltdown if Dyer's on the bench.
I'm not going to be mad. Do you think it's going to be Dyer or Phillips?
I've no idea.
I personally think it's going to be Dyer. I'm almost 100% it's going to be Dyer, but I'm not going to say 100% because you can't always.
I look at it as how we play. Dyer's not got enough pace. I've seen enough of Phillips to think that he's got enough pace. That's why Van der Ven got thrown straight in, because he knew the pace. If you're playing a high line, the biggest thing you're going to need to have is pace to recover, regardless of how your defending is. If you're on a halfway line and the ball goes on top of Dyer, he ain't getting there. He's not. So as good a defender and experienced as he might, he's not fit for the system. That's why we've got these players in. That's why they let Sanchez go. Because Sanchez would have been the number 2, because he's much quicker than Dyer. He's defending shit, but he's much quicker and doing what he needs to do to recover. 5 minutes on the North London derby. Sean, you touched on it already.
When are we doing the preview?
That's
Tonight.
Okay, cool. Your thoughts on quickly? Is this the best opportunity in a while to go to the?
No, it's not the best opportunity. No, it's not the best opportunity because we've got a coach who's been in 6 weeks. They've got a coach who's been in
5 years.
Yeah, and has won an FA Cup and has got their team purring and has, I think, made excellent recruitment. And if they get Tony, that's another excellent, acquisition. I'm going there confident. I think we could go with that. And tonight at 7 o'clock, I'll be, with my chest saying we're going to win the game. But it's not the best opportunity. I want to see us just play front foot football as much as we can. But I don't want us to get on. I don't want a big reverse. I don't really want a big reverse. So I hope that Ange has got in-game tactics, which he can adjust to situations, and which I'm sure he has. So 27 years worth of experience. So yeah, I mean, my Tottenham are going to play the kind of football I want us to do, but I just think Arsenal are slightly ahead of us, I'm afraid.
Okay, Darius, your thoughts?
I think Arsenal
best chance or not?
I think Arsenal are way ahead of us, in my opinion. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Arsenal have, in my opinion, and you could argue it, maybe probably Man City do have the best squad, but Arsenal are not far behind in that squad. They lost Martinelli last week, and Trossard's come in, and they probably look better. So let's not beat around the bush. This Arsenal team is pretty good, incredible at the moment, in my opinion. They're playing. Last season they were much more attractive, but this season they're playing football that champions would play. They're controlling games. They're never out a game. You don't go into a game. I don't go into a game thinking Arsenal are going to lose a game at the moment. So it's going to be hard. I've also resided to the fact that if we get battered, we get battered. But I actually want to see Ange play his football. I want us to go to the Emirates and play the football we've been playing all season. What's the point in changing how we play now? Why give in to Arsenal if we know they're better than us? If we know they have the better squad, if we know that going to the Emirates we don't have a good record, who cares? Like, we can see 2 or 3 more goals. Okay, you take the beatings from your fans and your mates, but honestly, I don't think it's going to knock our confidence. I fully not expect, but I will not mind if we lose 4-0 this game. If we go out and we
listen.
Me personally,
you
and I'm
can't
listen.
speaking for myself. I'm speaking for myself.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair.
I'm saying that first and foremost. I'm speaking for myself. I would be more annoyed us sit back and try and play off the counter and try and manage the game and this and that. I personally, I don't care. We have set a precedent now this season where we're going to go at teams and we've taken the most shots in the league. We have set a precedent for how we're going to play. If we go and fold to Arsenal, one, it proves to them that they're better than us, and 2, it goes against what Ange said. Ange said, win, lose or draw, we're going to play how we play. So I'd rather us go out and play how we play. And if we win, we win. It's going to be amazing. If we lose, we lose. That happens.
Cool.
Shit happens.
So what I'm going to say to that is, when all the stuff that you said before, both you and Sean, I'm not saying Sean said this as well, but just you mentioned about, it's North London, we've got to go there with the most experienced team, but I don't mind losing 4-0. Which means if you don't mind losing 4-0, you should be able to play players that you don't mind having.
Fair. No,
my point I'm trying to make is...
But that's individual. I'm talking about if we get beat 4-0, if Ashley Phillips makes an individual mistake that leads to his confidence being up. I'm talking from an individual standpoint.
I've talked about the confidence. Remember, I talked about the confidence. If the player's confidence, because he's been given the confidence, it shouldn't matter what he does. If he's good, because you know that technically these players are good. The only reason why you get put into this situation is pressure. Think clearly under pressure. Teacup. That's what my man said, the old England manager for the rugby. You can't know that unless you put him in that situation. Anyway, forget about that. Going back to the point about the Emirates, I'm not looking to go there and lose any scoreline, particularly 4-0. I've seen the worst of the worst Tottenham teams go there and put up a fight. This is one of the better teams in terms of footballing ability. Now we've got to see mentality. We saw shades of it last week in terms of the mentality to come back. But now we want to see shades of mentality because we can lose a game. You can lose a game by a high scoreline, but there's ways of losing football matches. If we go there, camp, 4-0, yes. If we go there, try and attack, we have 28 shots, they have 28 shots, we get 12 on target, they get 12 on target, and it's a 4-2 to them, I'm going to be not happy, but I'm comfortable because I can see what we're doing. If you cannot see what we're doing on Sunday, we've got a problem.
I don't believe that will be the
case because Postecoglou will play 110% like he's playing last week, like he played the week before.
That's the point I'm making. If we go and try to manage the game and play 4-2 banks of 4 and 2 up front, and then we still get beat 4-0, which definitely could happen. Don't get me wrong. This Arsenal team is the second. Like, you'd be more annoyed at that. You'd be more annoyed at that. I'm telling you now, you'd be way more annoyed at that. If we try to manage the game and man mark and defend with low blocks and then we get slapped 4-0, what's the difference? Like, go and attack. Okay, it may not be 4-0. It may be 4-3, but and I know it's sort of contradicting myself in terms of, not playing the youngest players and whatever, but I'm thinking of that from an experience standpoint. I think you can play Ashley Phillips against Liverpool. That's fine for me. The Arsenal game is more important for just. I'm thinking of that. You got to think real life, social media. You got to think all of these.
But you don't want to lose 4-0, then, do you? Because there's no way. If we lose 4-0, I'm not coming on that review show. I don't think I'm going to come on that review show because them mans will come on that.
If you lose 4-0, but we play really well, you'll be fine with it. I'm not even saying 4-0.
Okay, I agree.
Let's say 3-1. Let's say 3-1, which sounds a lot more respectable.
What
if it's 1-1 and then we attack and they catch us on the counter because Arsenal may change their style. They may play on the counter. If they catch us on the counter and score 2 late goals, I ain't going to be mad at that if it's been 1-1 the whole game. But if we are sitting back, and we try to hold on for a draw 1-1 or whatever, and then they score 2 goals, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be pissed. So, I would rather us just go for it and then lose a lot than, otherwise than lose by not going for it. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be more annoyed that we don't go for it and lose than if we go for it and lose. And if it's bad, it's bad. Shit happens. United lost 7-0 to, who was it? Liverpool. Shit happens.
But no one remembers how they played. When you get a scoreline like that, nobody within 2 weeks remembers how you play. The 8-2 against when our Man United beat Arsenal. Arsenal may have had a brilliant game, but they lost 8-2. Nobody remembers how they play.
It ain't gonna be
lose
that
4-0.
All you read is the record books later, and it looks
That's
like
it. You're going to see 4-0.
It looks like it's going to be slaughter.
I can't see that. No matter how well we play, that can't happen. Sean, final thoughts then. Go on then. About the derby.
The derby, the North London derby. Well, not even the North London derby. The South versus North London derby.
That's a low.
It's that game. You always, when the fixtures are published, when are we playing Arsenal? When are we playing Arsenal? All the way up to kick-off, your stomach is knotted, and given my current health condition, that's the last thing I needed. And you just want the game over. You just want the game over and the 3 points in the bag. And that will be no different on Sunday. No different on Sunday.
Imagine we dominate Arsenal. Imagine we take it to them at the Emirates and we win.
I think we will. I personally think that we're going to be the team that plays exactly the way we're playing, and Arsenal will tweak their tactics. I can already see Arteta trying to be clever.
Is Partey injured still?
I don't know. That's the only thing. I don't know.
He was playing right back at one point.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they might play.
Your final thoughts then. Go on then.
Final thoughts really quickly. I have said it before. I'll say it again. I don't see the point in us trying to, tactical our way into a win. Let's just do what we've done the past 5 games. Whatever happens, happens. I just want to see my team take it to Arsenal. If we win, that will be amazing. It will put the cherry on the cake. We will be even happier that we dominated. Because don't get me wrong, I'll be happy either way if we win. If we shithouse the whole game for 90 minutes and get a 90th minute winner, I'll be happy. Couldn't care less. But it would feel great to let these Arsenal men know that you've had a 5-year, £700 million project, and you lost to an Australian who's been at the club for 3 months. That would be great. That would be amazing. Playing the way he played as well, that would be amazing. So I want us to go out with our chest held high. I want us to go out and play the way we play. And if we beat them that way, I think that puts Arteta's reign into, because I think Arteta's a generational manager. I think he's an incredible manager. But if Ange Postecoglou can come in, we've spent money this summer, but if he can come in 3 months and dominate this team that everybody says is the most, controlling team at the moment in the league, whatever, that's going to say a lot and question a lot about Arteta and why it's taken him 5 years and 700 million pounds. They should be winning the league. They should be beating us. So I think we've got nothing to lose. Let's just go at him. See what happens.
Listen, any team can lose a game of football. That's a given. We all know that. Man City, best team in the world, they can lose any game of football. It doesn't really matter. I'm going down this route for myself. I want to see a performance. Yeah, I've already looked at our record, and if you was a betting man, you wouldn't bet on us to win the game. That would be silly. But what I can say is, I've seen us go there last season, and it was awful. We were freaking 3-0 down at half time. We got 1 goal back. We would lost. They already knew they won. If we were to lose a 4-2, and like I said, there's 28 shots, they've had 28 shots, and I'm going to be like, disappointed, but you know what? I can see what we're doing. If we were to shithouse a 1-0, I'd be happy because we won, but I'd be disappointed in Postecoglou that he's had to do that. But now, this is where I'm going to add a little bit of a caveat. This is the biggest learning now for the rest of the season against the top teams. If he can go there, play his football, get a result, we know that we can do that against anybody. If he goes there, plays his football, doesn't quite get a result, doesn't look good in it, down to the manager to know, what am I going to do against Liverpool next week? What am I going to do against Man City? How am I going to play against Brighton? Blah, blah, blah. That will make me seem, as he got the minerals to change his game slightly to get the result. Not gung-ho, we're going to come back, but can I tactically tweak something to make us better in the big games? And that's all I want to be away from home, particularly, not at home. At home, it's got to be a fortress. We've got to play exactly right. But away from home,
50 games unbeaten he is.
We might need to tweak something slightly. So we'll see that on Sunday. If we go gung-ho, 100% the same way we play, and we get tanked, we're going to have to do something different in the big games away from home. If we go there, compete, and it's marginal, I'm happy with that. There we go. End of that. Flipping out. That went quick. that went bloody quick.
Very,
as you can see, it's
very,
getting
very
passionate already. We know what's happening this weekend, people, but we still got a few things to go. We've got a preview show, we've got the review show, reaction show.
Have we got any of the
And
opposition coming and joining us, or is it just us
Nah.
talking?
Nah, I was gonna say they might possibly be for the preview, but I don't want none of them for the reaction. I don't want to see them. Even if we were to win, I just don't want to see them. You know what I mean? I just don't. So
Fair. I might see
said
if I can infiltrate them on a Twitter.
yeah. If you want to go on theirs, if they ain't invited me, the army ain't invited me.
Tell them then.
Do you know what I mean?
I noticed that there's a watch along which is going to be on our channel on Sunday.
Yeah, it's that was
It's
the full
Bobby,
time.
innit?
Yeah, but that's again.
I don't want people. I don't want our regular people thinking that one of us is going to be on there, though. You know.
Yeah. So that's a good point because Bobby's going to be doing the watch. He's an Arsenal fan. If we had anybody that wanted to, but I don't want to be doing a watch.
I can't do watch-alongs, let alone North London derby. We'd get banned. We'd get taken down. The channel would get taken down.
I'm not doing that. That's not for me. That's definitely not for me because that would be swear fest. That would be, all kinds of nervousness. I don't want to see that. Anyway, and I don't think the viewers do. But anyway, make sure you smash a like on the stream. 100% subscribe if you haven't already. Paxton Road TV, PRTvSpurs. You know the names, you know the score. Look out for these guys. Sean Hell, look out for Darius 3K. We are Twitter, Instagram, everywhere you'll find us.
It's X now. It's X. We're on X, not Twitter. We're on X.
Okay, that's it. That's been a good hour show. Thank you all for watching. Don't need to remind anybody of what's happening this weekend. But yeah,
Tune in this evening.
Let's just see who has the minerals. Is it going to be Andrew with the minerals, or is Arteta going to show us his? I don't want to show us his minerals, but you know what I'm saying.
What time this evening, Sam?
I believe it's 7:30.
7 o'clock, I think. Yeah. Wow.
That's all right. Thanks, viewers. Thank you, Ed, for watching. Audio Artisans in the house. NS Sports. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll see these smiles, or we'll see the frowns, or we'll just be indifference. We don't know what's going to happen in that reaction show, but you'll see one way or the other what happens come Sunday. That's it, folks. We're out of here. Let me try and get the music to get us out of here, because that's always the. Where is it? Am I going to do the thanks and final? Or am I going to do the end of it? I don't know which one to do. Thanks and final. Here we go.
Do the drill one. Do the drill one.
What?
The drill.
Oh yeah, this one. I think it's this one.
Develop,